David Lecko, come on up here.
Thank you.
Hey, you excited, man?
Yeah, I'm excited. We do this?
You ready? Hey, look.
Yeah. Oh!
I know damn well. Y'all be in Vegas, right? We in Vegas, right? Hey, this gonna be a party for the next 2 days. You gonna get some games, but you gotta wake the hell up in here now.
Everybody stand up.
Oh, he's St. Louis. Hey, DJ, can we get that back? Yeah.
What's up, bro? Man, I had to tell you guys, I'm wearing these white shoes that Loopy G bought me, and I'm wearing this t-shirt that Tony created that has my own company logo on it. And I was asking Loopy just back here, I was like, why'd you buy me these shoes? Like, thank you, like that, they're amazing. And he's like, 'cause you're my friend. And I was like, I've had friends before, but nobody's ever bought me a pair of shoes, and definitely not ones that cost more than a $100 bill. And I was just thinking back to when it all started. And so it was about a year ago that my phone rang, and it was an unknown number. So I called it. I thought it might be a good lead. And it was like Tony the Closer. And I was like, Tony the Closer? How did you get my number? And he said that he wanted to get set up with the technology we created for our business to drive for dollars. And so we set him up right away because I was still starstruck. And a couple months later, I was introduced to Loopy G on social media. Apparently, I was not there, but at a meetup that Tony and Loopy were at, they were telling people that they needed to go drive for dollars. And Loopy started making threats. He said, if you guys don't drive for dollars, I'm coming to DealMachine your house. And so Tony wanted to create a t-shirt because it became kind of a hashtag thing. And I just wanted to reflect on that and just say like how thankful I am to be a part of, a small part, but a part of both of their stories. And it's a huge honor to be able to serve each and every one of you. Especially those that have used DealMachine, and I wanted to say thank you. Thank you very much. So, I wanted to gear this presentation towards taking you from doing 0 to 10 deals when you feel like you're competing against really big dogs in your market. Because in almost every market in the United States, there's huge players that are buying homes. Even Zillow's buying homes, and Red Door, and a lot of other companies like that. So who is in the 0 to 10 deal range right now that's done 0 to 10 deals? You pop your hands up. Good. This presentation is going to give you guys the most value to be able to compete and to be able to get profits that the big dogs can't imagine per deal. How does that sound? Yeah. Good. So a quick introduction about me. My name's David. I'm a real estate investor myself. I did create the DealMachine app for myself originally, and I have 6 buy and hold properties, and it's been a huge honor that we've worked with in some way, shape, or form 80,000 different investors or people working for investors to help them generate leads. And so anything that I'm sharing with you today is from that experience, working with all of those investors. So I wanted to take this really seriously because it's a huge honor to be here. In the next 30 minutes, my job is just to make you more money than you're currently making right now. How does that sound? So, lead generation. There's so many ways to generate leads. I bet you could name 5 to 10 right now that you've heard advice about. When I first started, the advice I often heard was purchase an absentee owner list and send out these things called yellow letters. It's like a yellow piece of paper, and you get like a red Sharpie, actually, and you write kind of like a kindergartner. That was one piece of advice that I had heard. And I'm not saying it's bad advice, so don't take me that wrong. What I'm saying is I also heard some other advice, and the other advice that I heard was you should actually buy a list that's high equity. And then what you should do is you should skip trace them to get all the phone numbers and then give them a call. And I was like, what do I do? I definitely fell through the pitfall of just like trying a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I got a lot of nothing as my return. So what I wanted to present today is a single strategy that's specifically geared towards somebody that's doing 0 to 10 deals to get you up to that 6-7 figure business level and be able to compete while you're small with the big dogs. So what happens whenever you buy a list online? I was at this conference once. It happened to be a HubSpot conference in Boston. And they were like, we've made lunch very easy for you guys. You guys, we're gonna have a 30-minute lunch break. Just go right outside. There's gonna be a food truck, and it's gonna be very fast. You can come right back and we'll start the conference. And as soon as I got outside, the whole line was just shitting all over the sidewalk. I was just like, good God, how am I gonna get lunch in 30 minutes? And I was like, this is exactly what buying a list online is like. If you can buy a lead list online, and it's the easiest thing to do, every other investor is going to have that same list. Let me know if you guys agree with that. So, this talk is about competing against the big dogs. You have 2 ways to get leads, basically. You can use your time, or you can use money, or you can use like a sliding scale combination of both. And so what I want to explain to you is what does it look like to use all time, or what does it look like to use all money, and help you find that sweet spot so you can really compete. Because there are some big dogs and they've got a lot of money. I recently just joined a mastermind, and in order to be in it, everyone has to be doing 50 deals per year. And so I remember the very first night I sat down to dinner with Martin, and Martin runs a company that does 50 deals a year. He's been in business for 8+ years, and he spends $20,000 a month on marketing. That's a lot of money. And it's not the biggest one in there. There were definitely other individuals that spent $40,000 a month plus on marketing. So I was like, man, how can somebody brand new compete with that? And the fact is, it's really hard to compete with that at that level unless you have the same kind of budget and team. So basically what my point is Martin's using all money. So if you go back to that time versus money slide, Martin is at a scale where he's doing so many deals that he literally has to spend all of his time doing very high level things. He doesn't have time to get out in the dirt. He doesn't have time to get out on the street, rather, and actually do things that require his time. For example, if he gets a postcard back because it was undeliverable, he just throws it away. But I bet some of you in this room know, what are you supposed to do with a postcard that's undeliverable? Yeah, you're supposed to dig a little deeper and find that person, because so many people just won't. And that's why you'll get such a great deal, because nobody else will know about that one once you find that person. So Martin's just taking the easy way because he's doing such high-level activities. And he's also spending quite a bit of money to get one deal. So in Indianapolis, like smaller, lower dollar market, $3,000 in marketing is like pretty good to get a wholesale deal. In Phoenix, where Martin lives, definitely $5,000 plus is pretty standard. And when I was starting out, I didn't have $5,000 plus. And especially, like, I didn't know how to properly work leads, so that money probably would have gotten wasted because I let these deals go through the cracks. So what I'm trying to share with you is how you can use your advantage, which is time. If you're not doing 50 deals a year, you have more time to spend doing these activities than Martin does. So you can uncover a lot of hidden stuff that's going to be worth gold. So the strategy I'm going to talk about should be no surprise. Who's heard of driving for dollars? You guys raise your hand. It's your favorite. It's mine too. We're right there with you. So driving for dollars, for those of you who don't know, is actually creating your own lead list. And the way you do that is you look for houses that look run down. It could be a house that has peeling paint, a broken window, a tarp on the roof, really tall grass. If you guys have your journal and pens, like, definitely write this stuff down. Or it could be in like a nice neighborhood and something just about that house looks a little off. And then you realize, like, oh man, they haven't trimmed their bushes in like 2-3 years. So driving for dollars is actually looking with your own eyeballs and finding these houses and writing them down. The reason why any of these houses that are run down is a good lead is because if they need to sell their house, they've got two options. One, they can sink a bunch of money into it and sell it themselves on the market, or two, they need to sell it at a discount because the house isn't in perfect condition. And so if some life event happens to the owner, such as it could be like a death, divorce, medical, you name it, and they need cash and they need to sell their house, they probably won't have the money to put into it to fix it up. So they're going to need your help in order to get rid of it quickly. So you provide them time and convenience, and they provide you a discount. So everyone's buying easy to get lists. We already went over that. Driving for dollars actually narrows your list because so few people do it compared to buying the list. You don't need your list to be as big in order to get a deal, because you're reaching sellers that people aren't actively marketing to like they are those really big lists that you buy. You can also get better margins on deals. So picture this. Let's say that you get a call and they want to sell their house because they just had surgery and they can't keep up with the maintenance on their house anymore, and you're the only one they're talking to. They have no idea if there's other people that will buy their house. Now compare that to them receiving like 10 offers from people that are out of state, from people that don't really know the market and might offer too much. They're just going to take the better deal. And so if you're able to narrow down a list that other people aren't marketing to, you have full control over getting better profit margins because they're only talking to you. And again, the lower acquisition cost per deal comes from, well, your list is just going to be smaller because it's much more focused than a big one that you buy and you blanket send mail to. So for example, like the high equity list, there's so many people on the high equity list that probably won't ever need to sell their house at a discount. You have no idea if it looks run down, so who knows if they would need to sell it at a discount. But with the driving for dollars list, you've laid eyes on it, you know it's run down, and so you know if they need to sell that property quickly, they're going to need to sell it at a discount. Make sense? Am I with you? You guys with me? Okay, cool. I'm telling you all this because I personally started driving for dollars in 2016. This is a very house that I drove by and took a picture of with my iPhone. And I was writing down the addresses. How many of you guys have done this by hand? I like that. I like that a lot. So you write them down by hand, and my list just kind of sat there on the passenger seat for a little while. I was trying to build it up, so I could like send out a bunch of mail to it. I finally did bring it inside. I visited the county website. It looks kind of like this. I know it's hard to read. It was for me too. And then I made an Excel sheet of all the owners, and it took some time. So I'm trying to be a realistic like time, how long it's going to take you if you're doing this strategy. 40 properties for me took 3 episodes of Friends. Love that show. But that was too much time for data entry, in my opinion. And then I was going to print them out, and so I set up my printer at home, and I wanted the photo on it so that way I could get the very best chance of actually getting in touch with them. Because I know so many people just get random junk mail, me included, and I throw so much of it away because I simply just like don't want to deal with it. But I wanted to actually put a picture of their house on it so they'd like, oh, take a second and actually pause without throwing it in their trash can. So I was taking the actual photos with my house. That was going to be quality, and I was putting it on my mail like that. And then I heard that follow-up was important. You guys heard that? Yeah, the fortunes and the follow-up. Like, I started looking, I heard it first from this real estate meetup that I was going to, and they said that you need to follow up at least 7 times. And I was looking, like, every sales material that you could possibly research, even outside of real estate, says like 7 to 13 times, quite a few times. So I sent my mail out again, and I did it again, and you get the idea. Who's got a printer that looks like that? Really hard to put in envelopes, but I made it happen. So here's what it would take. So of all the 80,000 investors that have touched our app and used it to find properties driving for dollars, we noticed something. We noticed that it takes at least 200 properties. If you're in like the middle of nowhere, Alabama, some deals come in with like 100 properties. And I'm like, guys, that's not realistic. I don't even want to tell that story because other people are going to be disappointed if they add only 100. But if you're in LA, like a really higher end market where things are very expensive, like it might take 400 properties. What we found is on average, all these first time deals were coming through when people had added 200 properties that looked run down. Each 3 times. So we kind of analyzed everything to boil down, like what does it actually take? What is a good expectation? So my point of telling you this is not that it's Bible, not that it's guaranteed, but what I don't want to happen is for you to try it and only add 10 properties and then give up. Because that's what happened to me when I was trying the yellow letters and the cold calling. And it's really helpful to know where you're going before you start something. And so this is what you should aim for if you're going to try out driving for dollars. So if you're in a neighborhood, you can add 12 properties per hour if you're in a neighborhood that's kind of middle of the road. So if you're in a super nice neighborhood, you might not find that many rundown homes. And if you're in a really, really rough neighborhood, you may not be able to add homes fast enough, right? You probably add 70 in an hour. But the neighborhoods that I have found a lot of success in are actually, I live in Indianapolis, so it's like houses that are built in the 60s that just haven't been updated. And a lot of times those neighborhoods are like, a lot of blue collar workers live there. They're kind of on the outskirts of like wherever your outer belt highway is. In our market, they're like usually, ranches that are 1,500 square feet, perfect conditions, like 160,000. In those neighborhoods, I can add 12 properties per hour pretty much on the spot. So that's 17 hours to find and research 200 properties. Okay, and then I had a little issue with the postcards because I had 40 properties, but in order to send mail online with a service, I had to have like 200 or some minimum amount. So what I was doing is I was hand doing these postcards, started with by hand, and then I started doing them all like print, but it still took a lot of time because the envelope needed to be addressed properly and matched with the mailer. 200 properties times 3 times each, 600 postcards. That's about 30 hours. I like that a lot of you are writing. I see those pens moving. Answering your phone, investigating the lead, and locking up the contract is probably the most important thing for you to do. It's definitely more important than entering like data in the spreadsheet. It takes about 10 to 20 hours if we're talking about working 200 leads, sending out the mail 3 times, and answering the calls that come back from that, and going to check on those properties and working with the owner. So 10 to 20 hours there is about 67 hours of active time. That's like 1.5 full work weeks. How many of you guys have like a full-time job outside of this? Yeah, it's tough to do, especially if you've got a family and other commitments too. But stay with me, okay? Let's say your average profit for your first wholesale deal is like $7,000, which is fairly accurate. That would be $104 an hour. If you map that out, that'd be about $200,000 a year salary. So how many of you guys you think would like be able to sustain your basic needs of paying for your house, feeding your family at $104 an hour? You guys be all right with that? Yeah. That's why the 67 hours makes sense. I wanted to point out the biggest time spent was actually looking for properties and sending mail. So that was 17 hours to look for and research properties and 30 hours to send the mail. There's probably something we can do to fix that. The biggest risk you have is that you don't stick with it long enough, or that you forget to follow up and somebody swipes your deal, which is exactly what happened to me. And that's what was so frustrating for me, and eventually made me want to build this tool for myself, so that I just kind of got in front of my own stupidity of like not following up when I needed to. It would just take care of it for me. And I am telling you that because I didn't invent the wheel. Like, this marketing strategy and this lead strategy has been around for decades and decades, but I gave it a pretty badass engine. And when I say there's a whole team behind it. And so, I just made it for myself originally, but it's been awesome to grow, and a lot of that work is done by others now. And I was able to reduce the 17 hours to find properties and 30 hours to send those individual mailers down to 10 hours plus 0 hours, because you can send that mail right from the app. So instead of $104 per hour, if you take out those hours that we saved, you'd be making $233 per hour. And a quick tip, if you ever want to convert hourly wage to salary, all you have to do is, like, 233 would be equivalent to like $466,000 a year. So just rough math, that's how that equates. So almost $500,000 a year at that rate, which is pretty badass, if I have to say so myself. All right, so you've also got some time saved. So like, you could spend that with your family. You could also have a better chance of having success in the first place because the time required is less, and I know you've already got a slammed schedule. The other thing you could do with it is, if you're able to quit your job at some point, which you will, is you can find 2 to 3 more deals in that time. Plenty of time to make mistakes and take massive imperfect action. So who here is familiar with DealMachine before I got up on the stage? I appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate it. Good. It's the reason why you're here. I'd like to know more about that. So if you don't know, we exist to speed up and scale the driving for dollars process in the exact way that I showed you. So I wanted to show you guys just quickly how that worked. You can tap on a house to hold it and enter that into DealMachine. You can add a photo, which is going to be very personal and appearing on your mail that you send out to the owners. You can instantly see things like the owner type, the owner name, the sale info, the mortgage info, and tax records. Some of that stuff can be pretty helpful. For example, like if the house was just sold 3 months ago, even if it looks crappy, I wouldn't bother spending money sending mail to them or reaching out to them. So this is why some of this info is going to help you out and make decisions while you're out there driving. You can send these custom postcards immediately, and they've got different designs you can customize. And then the important part for me was that you can automatically repeat it. So that way I wasn't forgetting to follow up. The additional thing you can do is actually make a cold call on the spot. So if you see a property looks run down, nobody's going to swipe that deal if you just call them right away. And so that's something you can do as well right in the app. And it all takes about 15 seconds. So in summary, if you do the things Martin from Phoenix isn't willing to do, you're going to find leads he doesn't know about, and you're going to be able to get bigger profits than he's able to do, because you're finding properties that you're not competing with anyone else about. So let's say you get to that 10th deal. Would you like me to show how to continue to maintain those profits at scale? Yes. All right, I'll do it, just because you asked. All right, so a key component to DealMachine is, once you get to a certain point, remember when we were talking about the most valuable thing you can do is actually working the leads, investigating those homes, and then dispossessing those deals, selling them, making your profits? So driving will eventually be something that you won't have time yourself, because you're going to want to spend more of your time doing that. And then eventually, you're going to spend your time on building a team to do those other activities. But the first thing you're probably going to want to get rid of is you driving. So we've created the way for any DealMachine member to have a portal where you guys can have other people sign up for you. So Uber driver, mailman, anyone who's just out driving. It could be somebody who really supports you, like your mom or like a cousin, that you can add and have them add properties for you. And so the main thing that we solve there is, I posted this on Craigslist. I was like, I need a driver. I will pay I was paying $15 an hour actually. And so I was like getting all these requests. So like 20 people requested to do an interview. And so I like spent all this time scheduling all these interviews, and then like literally the first 5 never showed up. Has anybody ever like tried to interview somebody like this and then they don't show up and you're like, I thought you wanted a job. Like, what? And why am I wasting my time setting up meetings with all these people? So basically, if you're gonna hire somebody to go drive for you, you want them to jump through several hoops that they're gonna have to do in their normal job before you ever spend any time meeting with them. So this page is a place where you can tell them from that Craigslist ad, hey, go check out my page for driving. It's going to tell you all about how you're going to get paid, what you're going to have to do, what your requirements are. You can actually sign up right now, and then you're going to get trained on how to add properties. And the technology does all this. And then once you've added 25 properties, now I'll meet with you because I know you're serious. So that lesson translated to this driver recruitment training portal. And it's all automated, so you can basically direct people to sign up for you, and they know exactly how you want them to drive. And so you might be thinking, well, I want to pay them a different way, or I want them to look for a slightly higher or lower distress level. And you can actually use videos that we've already made to select the video that you want. You can also film your own videos as well, but that's really going to save you a lot of time as well. There's another issue that I had was I was like, I have 2 drivers. I don't want to pay you guys to do the same work twice. And I also really want to focus on this neighborhood called Bates Hendricks, where I know there's a lot of flipping. I want to find every single deal in there that I can without missing one. But I get turned around because the streets are kind of like wonky. So the route tracking is a component that also helps you make sure your team isn't duplicating efforts and making sure you cover the full areas that you guys want to find leads in. So that's another component that we have to help you guys out. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you guys is we've got these different mailer types. Traditionally, the postcard with the photos worked really well, but we all know handwriting works better. So we found these robots that actually write with your ink pen. And so those are now able to be sent out as well to get a higher response rate. So they actually did a test where $10,000 of postcards versus $10,000 of handwritten letters were sent out. And the deals gotten by the handwritten letters was about double. And so that's why we offer those and started offering those recently for you guys as well. So I'm kind of running short on my time here. And I wanted to kind of go through these last few slides pretty quickly just so you can see a quick glimpse. But it's really powerful to look at some of the deals that were done. I'm most proud of this one, this tiny little house you see, the white one. I actually bought that for $4,782. I'll never forget that bizarre number because I came up with it. And this guy, he couldn't keep up with the maintenance like I was mentioning before. And it looked a lot worse than that. That's after I fixed it up. But it was the very first deal that I had done, and I was going to offer $10,000. And I just did some math, and I showed him, like on Zillow, all these other houses that are this square footage. They sold for this much if they're not in perfect condition, and he accepted it. So I couldn't believe it. So it's really the power of like there wasn't anybody paying too much. Like in our market, California investors will come and offer so much money. They don't really know the market as well as we do, but unfortunately, like it causes us to lose deals. And a lot of times they lose too if they paid too much. But there was nobody else that he was talking to at this point, so I was able to get the deal for the right price. The other one that I wanted to mention is Crystal and Dedrick Polite. They made $500,000 in 6 months by scaling this in 7 different markets. And it just shows you the power of once you get to those 10 deals and you decide to scale, like scaling this method can be way more effective than how like the original, the OG like big dogs like Martin are doing when they're using that bulk mail. So we're just getting started. this is like a huge moment for me. In 2016, I made the app for myself, put it on the App Store, was able to pay our first salary in 2018, and now I'm speaking at the 100K Club. And Malcolm Brown, where are you at? You in here? Malcolm Brown and, oh, there you are, Mr. Obey, were asking me, like, how has your business changed your life? And I was like, dude, nobody's really asked me that. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, I was working as like a junior software developer, and I was interested in real estate, so I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, started looking for properties, quit my job when my friends wanted to use this tool I made for myself, DealMachine, and I was like, oh my God, like some people want to use this, like maybe this could be a real thing. And after a year and a half, we were able to pay a salary to a team member and also myself, and I was just like, dude, it feels so fucking good to think about that. And I wanted to share that with you as people that own businesses and are starting businesses. It took like a year and a half of grinding with like not taking payment. And I know I was fortunate to have had worked for 10 years and saved up like 40 grand that I could live off of, and I had 5 roommates to do it. Dude, that's too many roommates, I'll tell you that. I got out of there as fast as I could pay myself. But don't quit too early. I think that's like what the point is I wanted to make for you guys was, like, if I had quit any time in that year and a half, like I wouldn't be here right now, and just like it's hard to picture that. So I want to leave you guys with that message of just don't quit too early. Talk to some experts that know how much it takes, how much work it takes, and set that proper goal. I don't want you guys to quit too early. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to serve you guys.